wants to view it later, or we will share out. So just so everyone knows, this webinar is going to be recorded. So first, thank you to all of our staff that is willing to jump on this call tonight. Hopefully this will be an informative event. Really, that is the hope of tonight, is kind of to make you aware of the curriculum offerings that are available to next year, provide our teachers that are the experts in that curriculum the opportunity to engage and talk, provide the opportunity for our counselors as well to be able to share their thoughts about as you progress through the upper grades, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And from there, after we conclude this part of the webinar, Zoom links were shared, but I will put the link for the Google Sheet that has the Zoom links where our teachers will be in various Zoom sessions. So if you have a specific question about a course, what's the difference between this class versus this class? Again, those experts in the curriculum will be able to answer those questions. So again, thank you very much for jumping on the call. I'm going to share the presentation for this evening. And Mr. Povid, I can still see you. Can you see the curriculum awareness slide? Excellent. Thank you so much. So again, if you don't know, or if you're new to the Pine Lake community, my name is Tim Hoffman. I am the principal at the high school. So Lori Reuter, if you don't mind introducing yourself, please.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for getting on this Zoom. Hopefully this will answer all of your questions, and I am happy that you are here.
Ms. Dworsky?
Mrs. Dworsky, alphabet A through HE, not to cause any confusion, but Ms. Catchpole is also coming up as Amanda Dworsky. I shared our panelist thing with it, but I'm excited to have you all here tonight, and hopefully we can answer everybody's questions so that they're feeling good about the next upcoming school year.
Ms. Rhoda?
Hi, good evening. I'm Amanda Rhoda. I service students HI through PA.
And Miss Catchpole, I meant to change her name. I hope I didn't remove her accidentally. Is Miss Catchpole still on?
Actually, you just kicked her off, so
I might have just
will
kicked her off.
introduce for her. She is our newest counselor, joined us this year from Huff, and we're really excited about the expertise that she brings to our department. Particularly, you know, she's got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas with students, and she works with the last part of the alphabet, PE through Z.
And all of the teachers will have an opportunity to introduce themselves when they talk about their individual curriculum. So as I said, the purpose for this evening is really to talk about the registration process. What have we done so far? What courses will be offered next year? And really kind of, again, focusing on the upcoming school year that'll begin in August, the 2023-2024 school year. So the first thing is, what have we done so far? So far, with respect to what we have done, is our counselors have discussed and done one-on-one meetings. Ms. Dworsky or Ms. Rowe, do you want to talk about what those meetings look like?
Yeah, so we started back in November meeting with juniors and kind of work our way down. By the time next week rolls around, when students are actually picking their courses, we may not have physically sat with them, but that doesn't mean that we won't be getting to them. We can make changes in the computer. We can review their selections after they've met. But a lot of the meeting is, you know, it's not just course planning, it's getting to know your student and getting to know what their academic goals are, what their aspirations for post-high school plans include, and really starting to build and foster that relationship. So currently we're in the sophomore mix of students, and then, you know, we'll be moving down to our freshmen, but our freshmen have had an opportunity to meet us on multiple occasions through both the English class as well as the freshman seminar class. So we have had opportunities to get to know our youngest students on campus.
And the next thing that we did was AP lunch meetings. Ms. Plotkin, can you unmute and talk a little bit about the AP lunch meetings? You happen to be the top person on my screen. I don't have you unmuted, Ms. Plotkin.
Sorry, there you go. We've had combined lunch for the last week and a half or so, in which every AP class or every AP teacher invited students in to eat lunch in their classrooms, where your child was offered kind of a brief overview. Some of them heard from students that are in the class as to their experiences, and they were allowed to ask questions.
Thank you. So we still have one more day of AP lunch meetings, and that will be AP Computer Science and AP Bio. So for about the last week and a half, all of our students have had the opportunity to learn about all of the different AP courses that we will be offering next year. And then we did a dual enrollment interest meeting that happened in January. We also presented in our English classes, and today all of your students hopefully came home with their course recommendations. And those course recommendations came about from their current teachers, and they were shared with students today. So they should have came home with that. And the second thing that they should have came home with is a registration sheet, which talks about the various course offerings for next year. And again, what we try and make sure that we reiterate to our students today when we pass out those course registration sheets is, for example, Ms. Forrest might have recommended a student for a particular math class, having absolutely no idea what Mr. McCune recommended that student for. So a lot of times our students might see all honors classes or all AP classes, or wow, I got recommended for 4 science classes. How could I take them all? And again, that's not realistic. It's about balance. It's about striking and figuring out what courses do I want to take? What courses do I have time to take? Where do I have that passion? Where do I have that interest? We never want students to look at that and say, well, Mr. McCune said I have to do AP government. That's not the case at all. It's a recommendation simply saying, if you have the time, if you have the passion, if you have the enthusiasm for the curriculum, I believe that you can do it. But I'm also basing it on this year. I don't know what your 6, 7 other classes are. I don't know if you have a job. I don't know if you're going to become the president of a club and that's going to take up a lot of your time. So again, we want to make sure that whenever we hand out those recommendations that we talk to the students about the fact that, again, that was a teacher kind of doing it in a silo, as I like to say, where they simply have one, they're really looking at it through the lens of their curriculum and not the lens of everything else that they have going on. The next thing that we did, which is what we're hosting tonight, which is our curriculum awareness night. And then finally, we will start registering students for courses next Tuesday, but that will start with the rising 9th graders that we did a curriculum awareness for them last week and got into their classrooms last week. So your students should plan to register towards the very end of next week or the beginning of the following week, and that will be done through English. And the hope is we will have all of our current students registered prior to our spring break. With respect to graduation requirements, a lot of people want to know, what do I need to take? And with respect to graduation projects, they are expected by the state of North Carolina to take an English class all 4 years, that being English 1, English 2, English 3, and English 4. And later, our English teachers will talk about the differentiation and what course offerings are under that for English. With respect to math, they have to do Math 1, Math 2, and a Math 3 in a course where Math 3 is the prerequisite. And again, our math teachers will talk about that later. All students have to do at least 2 years of Spanish. but we recommend that they, if not do it all 4 years, that they at least do 2 years in the high school to ensure that they have a competitive transcript with students graduating from various schools across the state, if not across the country. Students have to take 3 science courses: biology, earth, or AP environmental, and then they have to take a physical science, which most of our students take chemistry or physics to meet that physical science requirement. All students that are rising are now under the new social studies standards or requirements, which is world history they'll do in 9th grade, American in 10th grade, economics and personal finance in 11th, and then a civic literacy class in 12th grade. And again, I keep saying our teachers will talk about those specifics a little bit later. Our students all have to do health and PE for a whole credit of health and PE. They have to do an ethics-based course their senior year, and then the fine arts and STEM electives, which we'll talk about later. And Ms. Reuter, you want to wrap up with graduation project and service learning, please?
Sure. So students are asked to complete 40 hours of service learning annually. They can complete some of those hours over the summer. We do ask that students serve each year, so they can't complete 160 hours if they are in the upper school for all 4 years in their freshman year and be checked off as complete. We like them to do 40 each successive year. We have a service learning page where they can find opportunities, and we do go into the classroom and teach them how to log and track, and we regularly send out different options and opportunities for them to serve. And then we also have our graduation project. A lot of those graduation projects at this time are completed through our senior level capstone classes.
Thank you. So new course offerings. Ms. Catchpole, you are back. I apologize. I totally must have put you as an attendee trying to change your name, but I believe I changed your name successfully round 2. So if you would take a moment, introduce yourself, and then talk about the various new course offerings that, again, will be offered, not necessarily make. It'll be up to student interest. But if you can talk about those, please.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Dana Catchpole, but I've been on the screen as Amanda Dorsky and Lori Rudin. So here I am. Sorry about that. So we actually, we were just introducing some of these course offerings to the students today when we went in their English classes. But we do have some pretty neat new offerings available to the students if we can get enough of them interested in the courses. On the left side, you see it says half semester courses. Those are courses that are considered half the school year. So we would call them semester classes. You can earn a half of a credit in those courses. And some of those new options would be non-creative writing, a tinkering class. The kids often say, "What's tinkering?" Well, they're gonna look at like taking things apart and putting them back together. One of the things was like a radio was mentioned. So kind of a fun way to hands-on learning. We have speculative fiction and living Shakespeare. We will have a second level media and broadcasting course. And then I apologize, you hear a little boy in the background. And a kinesthetic wellness course. And then in our year-long classes, we're going to have a business class, which I'm super excited about because we don't have any business offerings at this time. So we'll have a business essentials. We will also have AP pre-calculus. You see that on the list. And that class is different. We're going to offer honors pre-calculus and AP pre-calculus. What we've been telling the students is to really lean into their teachers and their teacher recommendations to kind of get a gauge on where their teacher sees they might be best fit. But we are going to offer that AP pre-calculus for the first time, which is pretty cool. It's actually going to be offered the first time everywhere. The College Board's rolling that out. And then we'll have AP Physics 2, musical theater, and then a second level of dance.
Thank you very much. Sorry, it took me a second to find the unmute. It's been a while since I've driven a Zoom webinar. So now, like I said, we wanted to give the opportunity for our teachers really to kind of talk about the difference between the courses. what is available, what does AP look like in the world of English versus the world of math versus the world of fine arts. So I will pass it over to our English teachers, please. Mr. Rhodes, Ms. Schroeder, Mr. Bitters.
I guess we played nose on this one, so I'll go ahead and start. So if your child is coming into, I am Mr. Rhodes, by the way, the real Mr. Rhodes, not the fake Mr. Rhodes that's on the side here, and there's a couple fake Mr. Rhodeses. English 1 through 4 are required for graduation, so they're going to have an English class every year. We do separate in English 1 and 2 the college prep versus the honors class. Again, the honors class is going to be a little bit more rigorous, more homework, a little bit more reading, a little bit more writing. As juniors and seniors, they have exclusive access to the AP courses, AP English Language, which is my course, and Ms. Schroeder teaches the AP English Literature course. AP Language is more of a writing-based course where everything in the course for junior year that year is written, heavy emphasis on nonfiction, whereas in the English Literature class, it'll flip to the fiction section with a much stronger emphasis on British literature. The electives, you see over on the right, they're not necessarily all going to run. However, it'll be based on interest from the students. And then I also am the teacher of the ethics course for the seniors. And we will go into a little bit more detail on that on the breakout session.
I'm Adam Bitters, Mr. Bitters. I teach English 2, English Honors 2, and AP seminar. Although, and I'll get to a little bit later, but English AP seminars on the English slide here, and it's while it's a writing and presentation heavy course, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an English course. It's a research course, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But I just wanted to kind of point that out. It's a great elective for various reasons. English 2 is world literature. I didn't know if Mr. Rhodes mentioned that or not. I wasn't listening to him when he was speaking. But anyway, it's world literature. Honors is a step up from English 1 for sure. I think the one thing that Mr. Rhodes and I have discussions about often is that it's more intense. We have the EOC at the end of the course that is, holds us accountable. So it's a lot of writing, a lot of reading, a lot of reading comprehension, and you see the students at first have to kind of find their footing, but have large amounts of success. So it's fun because it's kind of the 1 year where we really step outside of anything that they've read before. And I really enjoy it. So that's kind of English 10 for 10th graders, or English 2 for 10th graders.
And I'm Catherine Schroeder. I teach the Honors English and Standard English 4 and the AP Literature. So I'll just speak really quickly to some of the big differences of that. My honors course is really focused on Brit Lit, and we go from the 800s to today and really trace how the English language has evolved over time. We typically read about 4 novels throughout the year, do a couple of small poetry units. And then as far as assessments, they normally write 1 major essay and do like quick, standard tests that they're kind of used to as far as multiple choice and things like that. As far as the AP, we really cover things from more across the world and really focusing from the 1700s to today. Normally they read about 4 novels throughout the course of the year as well. We really go super deep on those, spending about a month in each major text. But the big distinction between honors and AP is that in the AP world, a third of their exam is poetry. So we actually spend about a third of the year on poetry. The other big difference is that all of the AP assessments are short answers. So where the honors might get a quick multiple choice quiz, the AP might be writing for a full class period, about 4 questions. And then the other big difference is AP writes way more frequently. So they might turn out essays every other week that are timed in class, really demanding essays to replicate what they'll have on the final exam. The only other thing I'll say is just honors is more of a what class, like what's happening in the book, and AP goes a lot more to the, okay, so how is the author doing that? And then why does it matter in the grand scheme of the text?
Thank you very much. And again, like I said earlier, and I'll reiterate a couple times, that all three of our English teachers will be available later to answer specific questions. Mr. Bitters will be available to answer questions as well about the AP Capstone as well, but I'll share those Zoom links again at the end of the presentation. So I want to turn it over to math and to Ms. Falkenberry and Ms. Forrest.
Hey everybody, I'm Allison Falkenberry. I teach pre-calc and AP Stats and our honors calculus and stats classes. I just wanted to really quickly talk to you guys about our course offerings for next year. Of course, they're the same. Math is math, so it's about the same as we usually have done before. We have already talked to, in our Math 3 classes and pre-calculus classes, talked to the students both individually and as a whole, kind of laying out all the different options past Math 3. That's where it kind of goes into different paths. So your students should be aware. We've given them a couple of weeks to ask us questions, and we're very transparent with our recommendations. So your students should be informed, but we can still, of course, answer your questions if we need to. And of course, our new AP class is AP Pre-Calculus. So I'll let Ms. Forrest kind of go into that a little bit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Forrest, and this year I'm teaching Math 3 Honors and also the Math 4 class. Next year, I will be the AP Pre-Calculus teacher, and as Ms. Ketchpole mentioned earlier, this is a brand new course offering, not just for Pine Lake, but for every school who's offering it in the country next year. An important thing to note, we will still be offering honors pre-calculus in addition to AP pre-calculus next year, and they are both designed to prepare students to take AP Calculus AB the following year. So one of the biggest differences, obviously, is if your student takes the AP pre-calculus, they are preparing to take and pass the AP exam, which could potentially give them college credit depending on their score. And so because they're preparing for that exam and it's a college level class, they will go above and beyond the curriculum that we follow for the honors pre-calculus. There are going to be many more circumstances where students will have to interpret their knowledge and to application problems, real world type problems and situations. So it's less procedural and more testing their ability on whether they can justify their mathematical ideas well. So there's going to be a much greater challenge, and students will have to put forth more effort than they would in an honors level class. The pace will be faster, and so it will be very important for students who take that class to have strong communication skills, and like I said, be interested in interpreting and justifying their ideas.
Okay, just to follow up on that, in addition to our pre-calculus classes, our next level math, past Math 3 is of course Math 4, which Ms. Forrest also teaches. It gets into some statistics and kind of goes back and surveys through Math 1, 2, and 3. And also there's a section where we kind of get seniors prepared for college placements tests. So Math 4 is a great option for a 4th level math. And then of course, our AP Calculus and AP Statistics is kind of, we've talked to our students about, okay, if you're going to be a STEM major, if you're going to apply to Georgia Tech and NC State, then maybe AP Calculus should be your route. If you're into more computational math, you're strong in your Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, Math 4 pre-calc skills, then AP Calculus would be a great choice for you. AP Stats is for those that are interested in maybe business or the humanities and more interpretations instead of computations. So we'll be happy to answer any questions later if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you both. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Irwin, who is going to talk about the science offerings.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Mr. Irwin. So in terms of core classes, we have 3 core classes that all students have to take for graduation requirements. So that is being in earth and environmental science. So that can be the earth and environmental science class, the standard version, or the AP environmental science class also meets those requirements. Biology is a required course for everyone, as well as chemistry or physics to meet the lab science requirement. It doesn't have to be both. You just have to do one or the other. We have for our department electives, we have anatomy and then AP versions of both biology, chemistry, and physics. Anatomy does not meet a science requirement, but is there for those who, after meeting their 3 science requirements, who choose to take another one or like to double up on scientists. It's a fantastic course. AP Biology is not a first-year course, so they have to have taken biology before going to that, and same with chemistry. AP Bio and AP Chemistry are introductory college-level courses, and so it is recommended or required that you have taken regular biology and chemistry beforehand. AP Physics 1 does actually not require that you take regular physics, so that can be done as a first-year course. AP Physics 2 is not a first-year course and is a continuation for those who have taken AP Physics 1 and would like to see a full scale of the physical sciences in that arena.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We move next to talking, if I can get this thing, is social studies. So I'm muted too quickly. Social studies, Mr. Hubacher, Mr. McCune.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Hoffman.
I'm done. You're up.
Okay. Yeah, there's 4 of us here tonight from the social studies department, and we'll all be ready to answer some questions in the breakout room in a moment. But I'm going to go over the core classes and the electives that we're offering this year from social studies. There are 4 required courses, as Dr. Hoffman went over earlier, for graduation in North Carolina: world history, American history, economics and personal finance, and civic literacy. Students that entered Pine Lake as freshmen will take the courses in that order. So if we have rising sophomores here, they'll be taking an American history course next year, juniors, econ and personal finance, and the seniors, the civic literacy course. Each of those courses, with the exception of the junior year course, have an AP option to satisfy that requirement. So the current freshman could have taken or may be taking AP World History. The rising sophomores will have the option of taking AP US History. And one of the things that would distinguish an AP course in the social studies from one of the regular level courses or honors level courses even is really just going to be rigor. You're going to be dealing with a lot of primary source documents, learning how to analyze those, a lot of emphasis on writing that may not be present at the same level in a college prep or a honors level course. So if you're considering American history, if you're going to be taking American history, you have that AP option to consider. The junior year, the economics and personal finance course has a college prep and an honors option. There is no AP course that the state allows to satisfy the requirement for that. Mr. McCune and I are teaching that course this year to the juniors for the very first time. And it's kind of we like to say it's a course on adulting. They learn all the stuff that maybe we wish we were taught in high school about how to, balance a checkbook and budget and, figure out how you're going to pay for college and things along those lines. So it's a very valuable course in terms of life skills that the juniors will take. The final option, which is a new course this year at Pine Lake, would be for the seniors, civic literacy. That is a new required course. And the AP US Government and Politics course, which had previously been an elective, will satisfy the requirement for the civic literacy course. So you're talking about government, voting, participation, with just a higher level of rigor in the AP level course. For the electives, as you see on the right, we have AP Psychology, which is an AP level course, obviously, that it does not satisfy one of the core requirements, but is an excellent look at everything that goes into the way the brain works and the way that we make our decisions psychologically. Global studies and sociology, which are down below there, also being half-year courses that count as social studies credit, as credit, but just not as a core class requirement. And then I'm not skipping, but AP research, which is taught by Mrs. Plotkin is the follow-up to AP seminar that Mr. Bitters was talking about earlier, and it's part of that AP Capstone program. So we'll be happy to answer questions about any of those in our breakout room in a few minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Hubacher. Ms. Sepulveda, would you like to talk about Spanish, please?
Absolutely. Phew, we're about halfway done. There's a reason why Spanish is in the middle. I just have to say it. Our department has more fun. Now, my fellow teachers may disagree with me, but no, don't click yet. Don't click yet. So I animated my slide, and you'll see here that we've got our core classes, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and Spanish 3. For most rising 10th graders, these will be classes that they've already had. If you have already taken Spanish through middle school, then you'll be ready for Spanish 4, either standard or honors, as you're moving up to 10th grade. But if you're new to the school, then you will take a Spanish 1 if you've never had Spanish before, Spanish 2 if you have, or possibly Spanish 3. All of our classes are comprehensible input, which means that we focus on language. We focus on whole language instruction, and all of our classes are given 90% or more in Spanish. We try to make things fun. We try to make things interesting. So again, we had to animate the slide to share with you some of the things that we do. For Spanish 4, which is, go ahead, Dr. Hoffman, which is our class for rising 10th graders, students have the choice of taking standard or honors, and many of my students say, what's the difference? So our college prep standard class is basically the same curriculum. We use the same curriculum in all of our classes. The only difference is there's more writing, and there's just a faster pace in our honors classes. Our next core class that we offer past Spanish 4 is Spanish 5. So Spanish 5 is a continuation of our Spanish 4 class. We are learning, we've perfected past tenses at this point, so we're learning tenses. We're perfecting our present, past, and future tenses, and then we're learning the subjunctive mood, and we're learning more difficult tenses. There are about 37 in Spanish. So we're continuing our journey into those verbs in Spanish. After Spanish 5, we have Spanish 6, which is a new course offering this year. We are not offering AP Spanish this year, but we are going to offer Spanish 6. This class will use authentic texts and authentic film to present more about culture in the Spanish department. I think students are going to love this class. It will be taught by Ms. Straub, and she's having a lot of fun putting it together. So if you have any questions about these course offerings, make sure to head up to the Zoom meeting. And AP Spanish language, if we have a strong interest, then there is a possibility that we will offer this class this year. Well, definitely next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Essentially, we asked all of our Spanish students, are they interested in the AP or continuing their Spanish pathway? And as of right now, in conversation, they wanted to continue Spanish without that AP test at the end, but we'll offer them both and see what our students sign up for. But at least dialogue in conversation with their Spanish 5 teacher. They've all indicated a desire for Spanish 6. As opposed to that AP Spanish language. So we talked a little bit about AP Capstone, but I will pass it off to either Mr. Bitters or Ms. Plotkin if they have anything else that they want to add about the class requirements for the AP course, AP seminar, or AP research.
There isn't anything I really want to add because I could do that after, in the session if you have any further questions, but really just the class requirements. It's a pathway. So if you decide to go this way, your student decides to go this way, they would take the 2 courses you see on the left, and then could take a combination of courses, that they are interested in and earn as separate kind of endorsement on their diploma or a certificate. So it's a really challenging pathway, but it teaches some really good skills with research, with regards to research, critical thinking skills, speaking skills, and writing skills. So, but more specifics, you can come to the room and hear us out.
Thank you, Mr. Bitters. So we have health and wellness, various courses. So Ms. Rhoda, if you don't mind talking about those offerings, please.
Sure. So I do not teach this. However, we do require all of our students to meet that health and PE requirement. The state of North Carolina does require at least 1 year. If you have a freshman or a sophomore, you may see a Part A or Part B. So if they are in Part A, then Part B will be offered next year, and you can combine that with another elective, or vice versa. If they're in Part B, then they'll be finished. But I don't think we have any in Part B right now. The electives that we do offer will be sports psychology, weight training, and kinesthetic wellness. And all three of those do have a prerequisite of a completed health and PE track. So yeah, as long as they have completed health and PE, then they are more than welcome to sign up for sports psychology, weight training, or kinesthetic wellness. And the last option, kinesthetic wellness, is going to be a new course offering for next year, as long as we have the student enrollment to say that we can offer it. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Lalaika, you're up. Can you talk about our fine arts offering and how they branch out very quickly as our students enter 10th, 11th, and 12th grade?
Yes. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Excellent. Hello, I'm Mr. Lalaika. I teach visual arts and animation, 2D and 3D, and AP art and design animation. So we got numerous selections all across the board. We got everything from performing arts, orchestra 1 through 4. We have band 1 through 4, AP music theory, theater arts 1 and 2, and it's broken down also within costume and design 3 and 4, and in technical theater 1 and 2. Acting 1 through 4, dance 1 and 2, vocal music 1 through 4, pride singers, visual arts 1 through 4, ceramics 1 through 3, and then digital animation. 2D is more of drawing on the tablet, drawing on the screen, more cartoony, old school feel like Warner Brothers, and then 3D more like Pixar 1, 2, and 3. The AP art and design animation, that is geared towards the pre-production to film. All the concept art and designs that are within storyboards, story beats that put it all together, because something like animation film takes about 4 to 6 years on average. So they get to really dive in and do some exploration within their minds and their portfolio pieces. And we got yearbook. And within that being said, if your teachers have already given you a recommendation, that's fantastic. If you want, I know all the teachers were more than welcome to talk about different things if there is a, some kind of idea floating around which one you want to take here or there. But yes, feel free to go into the breakout room after we end with the main conversation, and I can give you some more specifics. Whew, that's a lot of information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, if you have any questions about specific fine arts, please head to Mr. Lalaika's breakout room whenever we wrap up. So we want to turn our attention, after going to fine arts, to engineering and computer science. So Ms. Riley, if you would like to talk about computer science, and then Mr. Walker follow up with a discussion about engineering. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Hoffman. Can you guys see me, hear me? Okay, awesome. Perfect. I'm Miss Riley. Good evening, beautiful humans. I'm glad to see all of you online. I hate that we don't get to see you in person. So I am the upper school computer science teacher. Some of you may have heard about or met my counterpart in the middle school, Mrs. Natasha Newton. We will have the intro to computer science option for students that missed it in the middle school. And that will be a 6-month course. We also have the AP Computer Science Principles. If your student took the Intro to Computer Science with me this year, or perhaps took a basic computer science course in another school, they are welcome to hop into the AP Computer Science Principles course, which is really a theory class with a completed coding project and a 75 question end of course test. We also have the AP Computer Science A course, which is an intensive deep dive into Java. It really does require kids to be fully prepared and committed to going to the college route for computer science. It's not something that I recommend for somebody who's not sure, but it's something that I recommend for somebody who really is contemplating a major or minor in computer science. We also have our course that we wrote, which is cybersecurity and AI, which has been a really awesome course in which the kids get to do an initial dive into cybersecurity, some data science, and the basics of machine learning and AI. We also have our Capstone course, which is for seniors or students that have taken at least 3 computer science courses, in which they create 3 mini projects and 1 major project that they present to a board of computer science advisory committee team members, and are also working on integrating with that capstone. We've been working on internships for the students over the summer. So a lot of great things going on. And we would love to have every kid try the computer science and technology, because it definitely leads into any potential career path. And it marries well with your digital animation and your PLTW. So it's a really great opportunity to bolster both sides. And I'm also the FRC head robotics coach for Team Spork. If your kids haven't considered robotics yet, I encourage them to definitely consider it. It's a life-changing opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Thank you, Dr. Hoffman.
Mr. Walker?
Okay, I'm going to jump. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to jump into our engineering curriculum. You'll see PLTW. That is Project Lead the Way. That is a national STEM curriculum taught in every state. Our first class, which is typically 9th graders, but does not have to be. So if your child is coming into 10th grade and haven't taken an engineering class or has not taken an engineering class, we can work it out so they can start in Intro to Engineering Design as a 10th grader. We've even had 11th and 12th graders in it. Intro to Engineering Design is a CAD heavy class where they learn computer aided design. Principles of Engineering, our second course, has a touch of electrical, a touch of mechanical, and even a touch of mechatronics in it, where we build and program robots. Aerospace engineering is what you think. Students build gliders, build rockets, fly flight simulators, and map satellites. Capstone is much like Miss Riley's Capstone. In our Capstone course, students work in a team of 3 or 4. They identify a quality problem we're solving, research it, brainstorm it, and solve the problem with a physical prototype. And they present in the theater in front of not only a panel of engineers, but also a crowd of parents and other students. I will say that we want every student to take engineering, whether they want to be an engineer or not. So we build this program to be inclusive. So if your child says, I don't want to take engineering because I don't want to be an engineer, about 50% of our students go into a STEM career and about 50% go into other careers. And I often hear back from those that went into other careers saying, I'm so glad I took the engineering pathway. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Thank you, Mr. Walker. So the question now is, how do we put it all together? And that's where I'm going to turn over to our counselors that can help us understand how to put this all together.
Okay, so putting it all together. So today, as stated earlier, we did give our registration card and we told students to choose 8 classes, 2 alternatives. And so with that being said, you know, the older that the student or the more the student advances through high school, the more course options are available. So you'll see more APs than you did freshman year and so forth. And so I'm one person that will always tell a student to take an AP course and something that they are really, really interested in. I used this example yesterday. Sorry, Mr. Hubacher, I hate history, so you would have never seen me taking an AP anything in history because it was absolutely dreadful for me. And so the same thing with students, you know, I tell them to take those courses that will challenge them, but that they're also interested in. So be prepared to choose that. And it is a commitment as well with AP. You do have a lot more homework than you would have in your honors or your college prep courses. We also want students to be well-rounded humans, right? So not only worried about grades, but we also want them to be involved in the Pine Lake community with clubs and organizations and sports. But we also do service learning. And so if they're going to take courses, to be mindful of that. If you're going to play football, for an example, but you want to take 7 APs, will you have time in your schedule to realistically complete that, what you're, working towards? Making sure that also when we did give out the registration cards today, there were course recommendations. And so the teachers worked well with your students so far, this far anyways. And so they do know how well the student performs in class, if they turn work in on time, and that is why they may have recommended them for a certain course. And so we do recommend that if there was a course that the student or parents did not agree with, to just reach out to the teacher and have that dialogue as to why you were recommended for a certain class over the other. And so as always, we're available in the breakout room if you have any more questions regarding the college prep AP versus honors dialogue. And yeah, but that's putting it all together.
Okay, I believe my slide is up next. Again, Mrs. Dworsky here. We went ahead and referenced the January webinar that we held regarding dual enrollment. So we're not going to go into too much here today. Our job is to focus on our Pine Lake classes. I will say I would have joined the history APs. I was a history minor in college. Fun little fact there. College and Career Promise, we like to think of it as an extension of the electives that we offer at Pine Lake. And so we typically encourage students, if you can't get it at Pine Lake, let's think about doing it through Mitchell or CP. It does have a really great price point and builds confidence in students' ability to make the transition into a college environment. As I said, this program, we ran a whole 50-minute webinar on it a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to make you sit through that again. But we are still accepting applications. It's a rolling basis from here on out. So if your student did not submit an application to be considered for the fall term, they can absolutely still apply. They just have to come into the counseling office. Thank you.
Did you mention the QR code? I'm sorry.
I thought I did. The QR code is just a link to the webinar program that we hosted already. And if you did not get the QR code, you can just email the counselors and we can send the link as a hyperlink. One more time. And I believe we're going to pass this over to Ms. Catchpole, who's going to put it all into.
Thank you. So my job is to talk about the college decision and how all of this impacts college. That is a super common question we get in our offices as the counseling staff is, how does this all kind of put together to impact our college decision? And so everything you see on this screen is a piece to that puzzle, right? That colleges are factoring in when they're making their decisions for their student body. They're looking to build an incoming class of students. So while we have this idea to generally super focus on GPA and course rigor, absolutely those are at the top of the list. But especially we had just gone on a visit to Chapel Hill earlier this year, and they are very clear to tell us they want to see people on their campus. They want to create individuals. They want to see who you are and what you bring to their university. So that's why all these other things you see on the screen are also critical pieces to the puzzle when you're thinking about how everything impacts a college decision. As far as that first bullet point where it says grades 9 through 11 and GPA, that's one thing that we discussed with our students today that's important to remember, that when you're applying to your colleges in that fall of your senior year, they are truly looking at your grades from 9th through 11th grade. The reality is your senior year or student senior year grades are not on their transcript until May, June time of this school, of that last school year. So colleges are going to already have made their decisions. The students are going to have made their decisions. So while their senior year schedule is important and they can't just, you know, just slack off completely, they're really focusing on those grades 9 through 11, as well as a GPA in grades 9 through 11. So we actually were just in our 9th grade classes this Monday and reiterating with them just how important that 9th grade coursework is as well, because those grades impact the GPA just as much as that 10th and 11th do. So the one thing I want to add when I'm speaking to our parents is that to be mindful of how you discuss colleges with your children, because they're always listening, right? So when we prep them for all this stuff and we focus on course selection, but then we talk about some schools are a party school or some schools not like an elite school to get into, but then that's a school that your child gets into, they can feel super deflated and frustrated by that. When in reality, if we all as professionals went around our workplaces and asked everybody what university we attended, I think you'd be surprised that they are all over the map, all over the country, and that you can truly get a great experience from anyone. So when we're thinking course selection, I really would challenge you guys as parents and families to think about what's best for my student, to see them succeed. So a fine balance of challenging them and pushing them in their passions and their interests and their skill sets, while balancing, like, if I push my child that way and I encourage those things, we're going to find the best college for them rather than taking certain courses to get into one specific university. So if we flip that narrative and we just really challenge them to be the best that they can be, we're going to find the right fit for them in terms of college. So that's kind of my challenge to you guys as parents, is to not focus on one place or one set of requirements, but rather help your child find their passion, their interests, their strengths, and kind of pursue those.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have been monitoring the Q&A. So if you have questions specific for myself or Ms. Reuter, we are going to stay on this call. But I asked teachers to please sign off and make yourself available in the breakout rooms. I am going to put that link here in the chat for if you didn't get the email through PLP Communications. I will send you that link here momentarily. While our teachers are setting up, I did want to provide an opportunity for international travel. Ms. Reuter and I definitely are excited for the opportunities about the international travel we provide. So we just launched a trip to Iceland that Mr. Walker is spearheading. So if you are interested in international travel, specifically to go to Iceland, I ask you to reach out to Mr. Walker. Currently rising 11th and 12th graders are able to sign up, and then it will open up to rising 10th graders. But again, I ask teachers to jump off. Please keep in mind that these breakout rooms are designed, they are not one-on-one parent-teacher conferences. They're really to learn about course selections. So again, keep that in mind that people will be coming in and out of those breakout rooms as you ask questions, but you have individual questions specific to your child, and this isn't the correct platform. Please remember that we're available by email, or you can always come in and chat with us. So I just put a Google link that will allow you to see all of the various Zooms and the teacher that you will see whenever you jump into that space. So again, I thank you very much for attending. If you have specific questions, again, Ms. Reuter and I will monitor the Q&A. I am going to end the recording and the sharing, but we thank you so much for attending this evening.